go live. All right, we're live.
Okay, welcome to the February 18th, 2021 meeting of the Edina Transportation Commission. I will call the meeting to order. And we'll begin, I think, with the roll call.
Commissioner Aller,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Kane,
Here.
Commissioner Lafferty.
Hello.
Yay, you made it.
We're doing roll call, Peter. Just need an aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner McCarthy, Commissioner Plum Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Shearer, and Chair Richmond.
Here.
Commissioner Attree,
Here.
Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Clark.
Anna?
I think you're muted.
I can see your lips moving. Does that count? You could type it in the chat. For some reason, your volume's not coming through.
And you got,
Right,
Commissioner Johnson, right?
Yeah.
I'm not listening to the list very well. Okay, well, real good. Glad to have everybody here.
Commissioner Kariwala.
Here.
All right. Thank you.
Lovely. Andrew, you want to share your screen with the agenda, because I think that's probably the next order of business is to approve the agenda. Okay. This is the agenda as presented. I think there has been a request to move the elections sooner on the agenda due to a scheduling conflict. Is there a suggestion about where to move that to? Like the first of the reports?
I'd like to make a motion to move the election to the top of the meeting.
Okay. We motion.
Second.
And seconded. We'll do the roll call. Please say aye if you agree, nay if you don't.
Commissioner Aller,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kane,
Aye.
Commissioner Lafferty,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy, Commissioner Plum Smith,
Aye.
Chair Richmond.
Aye.
Approved.
Okay. With that amendment, does somebody want to make a motion to approve the agenda with the amendment?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Andrew, it's all yours.
Commissioner Aller,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Johnson. Thank you.
Aye.
Commissioner Kane,
Aye.
Commissioner Lafferty,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy, Commissioner Plum Smith,
Aye.
Chair Richmond.
Aye.
Approved.
Great. Okay, then we'll move on to approval of the minutes from the January 21st meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve as written.
Make a motion to approve as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Andrew. Folks, I think you could probably leave your microphones off mute when we vote.
Commissioner Aller,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kane,
Aye.
Commissioner Lafferty,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy, Commissioner Plum Smith,
Aye.
Chair Richmond.
Aye.
Approved.
Okay. we will move into what is first now on our reports section, which is our elections. I'm going to talk through, I think, what the process is going to be so that everybody kind of knows what to expect. I think we'll first talk about what's involved. We are electing a new chair and vice chair. So I think we should talk about what's involved in each of the roles, because that a lot of what I ended up doing as chair, I had no idea because I never saw it being done, because a number of things are behind the scenes. So I thought we could do that, and then I'd like to share a few thoughts about maybe what succession of these positions look like. And then we'll move into a discussion where folks who have interest in one or another of the roles can voice their interest so everybody knows who's interested. And then we will take a nomination, and the nomination process and the voting process goes like this. If someone is nominated, then Andrew, you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong. Is it a motion, Andrew?
Yeah, so the the act of nominating somebody essentially is the motion. So
Okay.
someone announces, I nominate so-and-so for chair or vice chair. Just like any other motion that requires a second. After it's seconded, then there can be some discussion if the commission wants. Otherwise, it has to proceed to a vote.
So if we have more than one candidate who's interested, be aware that as soon as somebody gets nominated, if there's a second to that, we vote on that person. So it's a little, to me, it's a little bit of a strange process, but I want everybody to know, on the front end what that looks like. So everybody comfortable with how this is going to go? Everybody's muted, so I'm going to just take it as you're comfortable. So Kirk, do you want to share what the role of vice chair, what you do as a vice chair?
Sure. Role of vice chair is a backup and support and idea bouncer offer with the chair. And I know that recently in our work plan, there's that new role. Is Andrew, you can help me. It's the PAX review or the fund review, which is something that would have a line item for the vice chair. But I know that it didn't happen. It didn't happen where Lori would be traveling or not available. But if that were the case, the vice chair would step in and conduct, facilitate a meeting for the chair for the group. Did I anything else to add?
I'll add, I think it's an important position because it is the person that the chair can talk to about thoughts about process, thoughts about things we should be working on. It's, for me, Kirk has been my partner in this, and prior to Kirk, Mindy was. So and the vice chair does go to some of the broader meetings, like I think the chairs and vice chairs have gone to work sessions with the council, and maybe even some of the other joint commission meetings when there have been those. So that's the vice chair role. And then I think, and we'll get into this a little bit more, I think the vice chair is in the role with the idea of eventually succeeding the chair in the chair role. So they're kind of learning the ropes, becoming familiar with the leading of the meetings, the representing ETC outside of just our group, some of those things, so that when they succeed into the chair position, they kind of have the lay of the land. The chair position does some of those things. Well, what you see is leading the meetings, which for me has been the most awkward part of the job, mostly because that process doesn't come particularly naturally. But there are things that the chair does sort of behind the scenes. Andrew always sends the chair the proposed agenda, the draft agenda, a week ahead of time. asking for approval on that. And so it does require that you actually read that and bring up issues like, should we be talking about this or that, or should this be in that section? So there's a bit of a dialogue. I think it's also important that the chair have a good working relationship with our staff liaison, with Andrew. I don't know how you couldn't, because he's so easy to work with, but he's the expert, in my opinion. So the chair really needs to be able to rely on Andrew's expertise. Again, you're the point of contact, and there have been a number of issues when issues have come up before city council, that sometimes 2, sometimes 3 city council members have called me individually to talk through a vote that's coming up. So you have to be prepared to speak to those things and know actually a fair bit about what's in our comprehensive plan, because a lot of the issues that come up relate directly to what we have in mind as goals for the comprehensive plan, and a bit about living streets and the pedestrian and bike master plan. So it kind of is a role that brings together a number of things. Let's see, anything else? None of you have been chair, so I guess I can't really ask you. Go to chairs meetings and work sessions and those kinds of things, and rely on your vice chair, I guess, for if you can't do it all. But it is more of a commitment than being just a regular member. And honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to being a regular member. Questions about the roles? Okay. I got to thinking about what's the ideal, how does it work in the ideal world, this succession thing. So some of you were very few of you actually were on the commission when I became chair. And it was because I was interested in so I had voiced my interest in being vice chair. And the person who had been vice chair, who would have been elected to be chair, was Lou Miranda, and he moved to the planning commission. So now we had somebody, we didn't have anybody experienced, so I became chair. So it got me thinking about succession being important, and because it is a bit of a learning the ropes and learning who your points of contact are and all those kinds of things. So one of the things that I found is for me it took me 6 to 9 months, I'd say, to begin to get my feet on the ground and have it feel like I knew more what I was doing. So the first year, I think, as chair, it is a good training point, and a crappy job. I would have hoped you would have elected somebody else to be the chair. But then I think you start to hit your strength, start to perform better by the time the second year comes around. So I do really think that 2 years at chair is really optimal performance. It doesn't have to be that way. You could be chair for a year and not like it, move on. But I do think 2 years at chair is kind of an optimal time period. And so then it sort of stands that, if the vice chair is sort of in training for chair, that's a succession plan. I need to be clear that I'm thinking about this in much more of a work setting kind of format. Like, this is how you do succession planning. You figure out, who's interested, has the skill sets, and then you begin to develop and train them into those roles. And that's how I see it. It doesn't have to be that way. It wasn't that way for me. Seems to me that would be the most, provide the most continuity for the commission. And maybe optimal performance. So I'm glad to take other ideas on that, though. I thought I would just share my thinking about it. Anybody?
I thought you did a good job in the first year. And for
Thanks.
sure after. And the time went fast. Wow.
It went fast. Yeah. Okay, well, so now we're at the point where we have an open dialogue, I think, about who has interest in one or the other of the roles. And I'm not gonna lead this, I mean, I'll lead it, but I'm gonna shut up and let other people talk now.
Are you doing a roll call on that or just talk as you go?
I think if there's an opening for people to jump in, I think you should jump in.
Well, I think, so anybody else interested in the chair position? Maybe that's where we start.
I would say I'm interested, and I support others that are interested too, but I just thought I would say that.
Okay, I'm interested in the vice chair as well.
And I'm also interested in the vice chair as well.
Okay. Anybody else interested in either the chair or the vice chair role? Okay, well, Andrew, is it backwards if we take a motion regarding the chair role first?
As far as I can tell, there's no set procedure on which has to come first and second.
I'll
Okay,
make a motion for Kirk to be the chair.
great.
I'll second that.
Is there, I'm sorry?
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it has been moved and seconded to for Logan Johnson to be the chair. Andrew, you want to do the roll? If you agree with that motion, please vote aye. If you don't, vote nay.
Commissioner Aller,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kane,
Aye.
Commissioner Lafferty,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy, Commissioner Plum Smith,
Aye.
Chair Richmond.
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Can I ask one question real quick? There was a guy that was on the commission. I haven't seen him like in 3 weeks, or sorry, 3 meetings. Is he off or is he? I don't remember his name, but he was really seemed to be knowledgeable. And I forgot I don't remember his name. I guess
You're probably talking about Matt Shear, who said he was not able to attend tonight. Andrew, do you want to share?
Sure. Matt Shear announced that he is stepping down from the commission. He basically resigned today. He has said he's not going to be able to attend tonight's meeting, and kind of his work priorities and his life priorities have kind of taken priority over this. So he reevaluated his commitment and decided that it was best for him to step down from the commission.
Wow.
So, and we'll talk more about that when we get probably to the chair, member, and staff comments. Okay, so we have a new chair. Congratulations. And maybe now is a really good time for me to ask, do I continue to lead this meeting then, or do I hand it over to Kirk?
Unfortunately for you, it is still your meeting. Your term
Okay.
is not up until the end of February.
Okay.
So
all right,
this meeting is yours. The next one will be Kirk's.
Okay, real good.
I don't
Okay,
know if I can interject, but thank you, and I'm honored, and I'll do my very best.
you're going to be wonderful.
Mhm.
Okay, we have 2 people interested now in the vice chair role. I will take a motion of nomination.
I would like to nominate Jill Plum Smith as vice chair.
Okay, is there a second?
Well, can they explain why they want to? Do we discuss what their interests are doing it, or are we just? I mean, is there a discussion from them to talk about what makes them? Do they get to speak about what they want to do or why they want to do it? Is that something worth hearing before we start voting?
I think that will be. I think that's a good idea, Peter. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So Mindy, I'll give you
May
the floor
I
first.
temporarily withdraw the nomination?
Well, I'll
Have that
give you
discussion.
when we're ready to take a motion. I will give you the floor first because you had it first for this. Let's back up and hear from our 2 candidates.
I'll go. And first and foremost, Bokar, you're awesome. You would be an awesome vice chair. You're so smart and you're dedicated. So I just want to throw that out there first. And whatever people want, I am totally happy to go along with. I'm interested in being vice chair. In part, it's because as I'm learning more about what the commission does, this is my second year. Obviously, second year was a year of COVID. But I like bringing people together. I like getting students involved. I think I have some ideas that the commission might be interested in, and I'm also interested in getting to know more about what the other commissions do and how we really tie in to all of that for a bigger picture. Having said that, I do feel slightly green, but I'm a good learner and I like to ask questions and I'm not afraid to ask for help. And so I'll leave the fates in your hands.
Thank you. Bokar?
Hey, Jill, I thank you very much for those kind words. You are absolutely also very knowledgeable and an amazing quick learner. The reason why I want to be part of this is, first of all, I think when you talk about process, I think it's something that I can contribute greatly to this, to the ETC and be able to add value to that. Because I have been on the commission for a few years. Have been part of the writing the comprehensive plan, been part of the, a lot of our strategic planning. And I think now the missing piece is just process. And I think that's what I would contribute to this.
Thank you, Bokar.
Yeah.
Okay, we have two great candidates. Mindy, you have the option first if you are in that place. Otherwise, we'll open it back up for nominations.
Let me ask one other procedural question. Sorry. So
Okay.
There's a nomination, and sorry, Mindy, I apologize. So she nominates hypothetically, then we vote. Then if there's enough people say majority, then we don't even get to another nomination. Is that how that works? I'm just trying to understand. I've just never been through this before.
I believe that's correct. So,
okay.
Andrew, you can clarify because this is all new to me too.
It's kind of a strange process.
It is a strange process. I made Andrew call MJ actually because I'm like, really? It can't be like that. I just thought this is a goofy process. So he called MJ. Yeah, this is the process. So Andrew, will you clue us in?
Yes. So whatever nomination comes first, if that is seconded, then that motion has to be voted on. So if that nomination receives the majority of votes, that person is elected to that position. If that motion fails, then someone else can make a motion can make a different motion to nominate somebody else or the same person.
But to the people who are up for the nomination, we don't say, like, if my name comes up, I don't say yay or nay, and same with Bokar, right? So we are out of the picture on the yay and the nay.
No, you vote.
No, you can vote. You can vote for yourself.
Kirk voted for himself.
No, this is so weird. This is so weird.
I know, it's weird.
I think that makes sense because if somebody nominates a person and that person really doesn't want to, then that's the opportunity to decline.
Okay, good point.
If that helps. So don't feel bad if you accept yourself.
Yeah. Any other questions, Peter? Anything else?
No question. I just was saying thank you.
Okay. All right. Real good. All right. We're back to Mindy. If you would like to make a motion.
I make a motion to nominate Jill Plum Smith as vice chair, simply to move our process forward.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Can I do that? This is not right.
Well, the goofy thing about it is you're seconding a motion.
Ah, yes.
So I think you can, Andrew.
Procedurally, yes, you can do that.
Okay. Then, Andrew, if you agree with the motion for Jill Plum Smith to be vice chair, vote aye. If you don't, vote nay. Is this clear?
Commissioner Aller,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kane,
Nay.
Commissioner Lafferty,
Nay.
Commissioner McCarthy, Commissioner Plum Smith,
Aye.
Chair Richmond.
Aye.
The ayes are 5, the nays are 2. Motion passes.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Bokar. You're
Yep.
so awesome.
Okay, thank you so much for being willing to jump into the fray. Yeah, it was awesome. So congratulations to both of you for your willingness to serve your city. You're both still serving your city. So here we are. With that, I believe our election process is over, and we can move into what will now be the B item on our agenda of reports. Sorry, I don't have my agenda up.
Oh, it's the traffic safety summary report.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
actually, did we do the minutes?
we did do the minute.
Did we approve the minutes?
We did.
Okay. Thank you.
I think you even voted for them.
I'm sure I did.
So it is my pleasure to introduce Nick Baller, our traffic safety coordinator, who will be presenting the 2020 traffic safety summary report.
Good evening, commissioners. It's nice to see all of you again. Unfortunately, but hopefully next time around it'll be in person. So I will begin to share my screen here. So I just ask for your patience as I get that set up. So I hope everyone can see my screen fine. If not, please feel free to interrupt me. But again, my name is Nick Baller. I'm the city's traffic safety coordinator, and tonight I will be presenting the 2020 Traffic Safety Summary Report. And in this report, we'll be going over some of the statistics and maybe some of the trends that we've seen throughout 2020. So just a quick review of how the traffic safety process works is once a request is submitted and received, data is collected and analyzed and eventually presented to the Traffic Safety Committee that makes a recommendation, and this passes on to the Transportation Commission, who provides comments and reviews it, which eventually gets brought forth to City Council for final approval. And throughout this whole time, as the traffic safety coordinator, I'm making sure to keep the requester in the loop as their request goes along. When a traffic safety request is received, it is put into one of 5 categories, which include parking and signage, intersection control, and traffic calming, which could be any type of way to slow vehicles down, or a lot of these are requests for improved or increased enforcement, and also pedestrian safety, which tend to be requests for crosswalks or ways to help improve current crossings in place. And any other request that does not fall in line with these first 4 requests are considered other. These can be anything along the lines of requests for lane markings or any type of issues with sight lines. So in 2020, there were a total of 157 requests that were submitted. We have many ways for whether it's residents or commuters to submit requests to the city, and that's either by phone, mail, email, the city website, or even the Edina 311 app. So if you look at the graph on the left here, this is a breakdown of 158 requests that were reviewed in 2020. The reason why these numbers don't perfectly correlate is due to previous requests received in 2019 that needed to have data collected in 2020. Leading the way in the most amount of reviewed requests was parking and signage at 49, followed by traffic calming with 36. Then we have pedestrian safety at 34, intersection control at 21, and the rest were other at 18. There were a total of 21 A items where the Traffic Safety Committee recommended approval. 10 of those items were parking and signage, and as an example, one of these items was to remove on-street parking on Cornelia Drive, and this was in between West 70th Street and Maveld to help improve safety operations for Cornelia Elementary School. There were 7 pedestrian safety approvals, which include one crosswalk that has been installed on West 54th Street at Brookview Avenue. And there have also been 2 other traffic calming requests that were approved, one of which is an added speed limit sign for traffic traveling eastbound on West 60th Street coming from France Avenue, as the speed limit going from France onto West 60th lowers from 35 to 30 miles per hour. There were also 20 B items in which the Traffic Safety Committee recommends no action. And there ended up being 117 D items, which are items solely handled by myself, the traffic safety coordinator. An example of this might be a intersection requesting an always stop where no warrants are met. So then because of this, the Traffic Safety Committee does not need to review such a request. There are also category C items in which Traffic Safety Committee recommends further study. We do not count these as they eventually become an A, B, or a D item. We looked by geocoding their locations on a map, and we just looked at the 4 different quadrants of the city using Highway 162. In the northwest portion of Edina here, there were a total of 32 requests that were submitted. This ended up being 9 less than 2018 and 2019, with the most amount of requests in this area being pedestrian safety, which was 12 of the 32. You can see that there were a few of those pedestrian safety requests in the Grandview area, along with Interlaken Boulevard as well. In Southwest Edina, there were 24 requests that were submitted, which ended up being 10 less than 2019. The most amount of requests in this area were parking and signage, with 10 of them taking place. One of the reasons why there might have been quite a few less requests in this portion of the city could have been due to less in-person learning, more virtual schooling due to the COVID-19 pandemic, partially because of 3 different schools that are all within this area. In Southeast Edina, there were 25 requests that were submitted. This ended up being 1 more than 2019, with the most amount of those requests being parking and signage at 8. You can see that many of these requests tend to be along the more heavily traveled routes such as France Avenue and also York Avenue as well. Now in Northeast Edina, we received 76 requests, which ended up being 14 more than 2019. And the most amount of requests received in this portion of the city were intersection control at 29 of the 76. One of the reasons for the increased numbers in requests were due to the West 58th Street reconstruction project that took place. You can see that a lot of the areas that were located for these requests just outside of the project area due to a lot of detouring traffic, a lot of traffic calming concerns and intersection control requests as well, along with a handful amount of pedestrian safety requests in the 50th and France area. We also like to look at when we receive traffic safety requests. If there are any trends. I'm sure you can see from the beginning here, and from May through June, or I'm sorry, May through July is when we received the most amount of our requests. One part of this could have been due to the end of the governor's stay-at-home order, which ended in the middle of May, and also the beginning of these road construction projects. So more people are outside noticing traffic patterns that they might not have seen for a couple months. There ended up not really being a big significant increase in requests in like around September when schools were beginning again. This could be due to, again, more virtual schooling taking place. And throughout up until December, parking and signage requests remained relatively consistent, which is typically why those are the most received requests. But after that, that is all that I have for tonight. I am welcome to receiving any questions if anyone has.
I thank you, Nick. Was there a slide too that had a year that I thought, I just want to say that year by year coverage trend type of slide was interesting. Maybe it's 13 or 12. I can't quite see. But yeah.
Yeah, I have different breakdowns.
That kind of information I just was going to say is good to see, especially if there's trends that might help us think about any changes with policy or statutes, or like if something is a gap or a growing problem, or if we know that efforts are improving certain things, then to continue to support them.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially since we've been collecting our requests and everything like this consistently since 2018. We're right at the very beginning of trying to see if there are any trends. So you can see just from this slide here, from 2018 through 2020, these are just the categorical requests that were made. So you can see there has been a slight increase in traffic calming. However, a slight decrease in parking and signage, and kind of the other categories there were a little indifferent, so they didn't really have any true trends in that case.
Thanks, Nick. And just one more thing, and I'm sure others have comments or questions too, but this is a question. Just because we might see more requests doesn't mean that the problem is bigger, but maybe people are finding it more convenient or easy to report a problem. So I was just curious if, like, you mentioned the Edina 311 app or other ways. I guess what I'm trying to say is if people are making more feedback, that might be a positive thing, even if we see a rise, just because the feedback is coming in more often. Is that a real thing or not? I guess is my question.
Yeah, absolutely. It might be a little too early to tell. We would have to look back if requests are coming in more drastic based on forms. So whether they are through the app or through email or just phone calls reaching out through the city. But ultimately, the total number of requests in the last 3 years have remained fairly similar. So we are like it's a great thing to be able to hear more, because we can't help fix problems if we don't hear of them. So that's kind of a way that I like to look at it.
Nick, this is Lori. I have a couple things. One of the things, I love that you broke it out by quadrants, the requests. I think it would be helpful to also see broken out by quadrants which ones are A items and which ones are B items, so that we can start to see if there are any patterns of what gets approved and what doesn't get approved. I think it's also significant that we have at least one of the quadrants of the city, maybe two of them, that have more diversity. Let's put it that way, whether it's income diversity, racial diversity. And so I'd be interested in seeing what was approved and what was turned down in the different quadrants. So that's one thing. I do think that the mechanism by which the request comes in is important to track, because if 90% is coming in by email or if 90% is coming in by the 311, it's like you can maximize people giving feedback by making sure to promote those more, or whatever it is. I think that that's helpful. And again, I sort of go to this whole thing on demographics, and because we have this push for equity, how is this feedback being given by quadrant is another, it may be that there's a difference in access by quadrant.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see all that information as well. So we're capable of, I do save all that information. It's just not as easy to toggle compared to some of this. But yeah, absolutely. That would be a great thing to have.
I think we just want to be careful that I know that you guys do a great job. You look at the warrants and that, especially when stop signs but in terms of pedestrian safety and stuff, I think we just want to be careful that, that we don't have biases about particular areas or whatever it is. So it might be helpful to break those out as well. Last but not least, on your very first slide of the process, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that the Transportation Commission approves the traffic safety report and not just reviews and comments.
Technically, that's the way it has been in the past.
In the past, correct.
But I think starting last year, actually, the item on the work plan has actually been approved as a review and comment.
Yep.
So it doesn't require the commission to vote to approve. It's just review and comment.
Okay.
And then the comments are any recommendations that the commission makes. Those are added to the staff report before it goes to council. Like last year in the case of the Beard and 57th stop sign,
right,
or the no outlet sign for Interlochen Bluff.
Okay. So it might just be a little more clear to say reviews, recommends, and comments or something. Okay, you got me.
Thanks,
Anyone
Lori.
else?
I had one question or comment. I'm really struck by how many more reports there were from that northeast quadrant.
Since you live in it.
Yeah, for one. And you did point out a couple of reasons why, that might have been true for some of these, but I think, am I also understanding though that this is a trend though, that it's more requests from this quadrant in every year, not just in this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I don't have the data directly in front of me, but out of all the quadrants, I would say this one is likely the most dense quadrant out of all of them, especially with its location towards Minneapolis. But yeah, there tends to be there much more of those concerns received from residents, especially like following the 58th Street project, or even many other issues along France Avenue that we've heard of as well. So yes, I would say that there might be something else, just not what we have to put together.
Yeah, that would be interesting to look at, like requests per number of residents or something like that, to kind of help compare them a little more. Is like Lori said, yeah, we're wanting to look at equity of how people are served by the city and things that we choose to do in the city. And this also makes me think of, and depending on how they report them, is it that we have people in certain parts of the city that have better access to reporting or better understanding of the process, that might tell us that we need to do more outreach in other quadrants of the city to make sure that people are aware of the process and how they can make these recommendations to the city.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely a great thing that we'll try to continue to focus on.
I also think, I live in that area as well, and I think it was just buzzing. I mean, with activity. I mean, human activity was people on walks and bike. I mean, it was just, so I mean, it's interesting to see that what the trend is, but I'm not that surprised that there'd be more an increase just in that area alone, given the density and given the people that I saw on the street. You know, it was, you know, endless.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Nick, thank you so much. It was really a great report. It was super interesting to see, and thank you for, as always, for your work on the. Oh, the only other thing I was going to say is, might be helpful for folks to know who's on the Traffic Safety Committee.
Yeah, absolutely. So with our traffic safety committee, we do have Andrew Scipione is our transportation planner, along with Chad Milner, our engineering director. We have Brian Olson, who's our public works director. We have Emily Boddicker, who's an assistant city planner. And then we also have Dave Snazza, who's a traffic safety specialist through public works as well. And then we also have typically a sergeant from the police department who's normally working in traffic. And so this officer kind of changes from year. But right now we have Sergeant Nate Mandel sitting in with us in 2021.
Great, thank you. Thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Are we, sorry, Andrew, do you have the agenda? I could have opened my other computer, but I didn't. Are we into the PAX summary? No, on this.
I have the traffic safety report first.
Okay, perfect. That one was a short, sweet one.
Ding.
There was one A item, and I believe that was it, other than D items. Is that right?
One A item and one C item. Yep.
One C item, that's correct. Yep. So the A item is a request for crosswalk markings over Cahill Road and Amundsen Avenue at 70th. And staff recommends installing crosswalk markers at both locations.
I just had one question, and because I couldn't tell, is there a sidewalk on the south side of 70th? Is there a place for them to be crossing to? That was my.
Yeah, it's.
There is.
Let me try to zoom in a little bit here. You see this green and pink dotted line?
Yeah.
That's a shared use path that we constructed a couple years ago. So that is a connection to goes from the 9 Mile Creek Regional Trail now to the intersection of Cahill and 70th. So those crossings would be for
Getting
that
people
facility.
to that. Perfect. Thank you.
So is that where they have the bus stop too? On the right side for those apartments and homes, or?
I'm not sure where the bus stop is in this location.
Can you zoom in again, please, a little bit?
Are you talking about school bus or city bus?
School bus.
Ah,
That's 70th Cahill, right?
yep.
You take a left and then, okay.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, I believe there's a bus stop further south on Cahill near Admonson, and there's a crosswalk and there's an RFB there.
And a pickup location for kids for the school bus.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a very good idea because so many kids used to take that, wait right there for school bus, but I'm not sure about right now.
Well, there's also an apartment building going in that, right below that second circle on the right.
Correct, to the left.
South there, there's going to be a rather large apartment building. And I think this area has seen a lot of changes just in the last couple of years with the bike paths and things. So I think it's just, I agree with staff on this one.
Correct. Another piece, Andrew, would they also look at the speed? Now you have the upcoming housing to the right.
I'm not sure what you mean by the speed.
So the speed on 70th. So once you put a crossing on those two locations, would you reduce the speed, or would you just put a warning sign saying crossing ahead or something?
So to clarify, the crossing would be parallel with 70th. It wouldn't be perpendicular.
Or
So
parallel?
it would be, the crossing would be over Admonson and over Cahill at 70th.
Okay, I get it. Okay,
So no, there would be no changes to the speed limits.
okay.
Not because of the crossing anyway.
I
Wait,
see.
so you're saying it runs in the same direction as 70th, not across 70th?
Yeah.
Correct.
Right. Let me pull up a
Huh.
better quality map.
I actually live in the area, and I think that's a great idea to put one there because
Correct.
many people frequent that crossing of, I think it's Edmondson, you said, Avenue?
Yep.
Or Cahill Road, sorry.
So here in purple is the 9 Mile Creek Regional Trail. This dotted line represents that new shared use path that we put in. So the crosswalks would be, if I can mark them in red here, it would be here and here.
Okay.
They'd connect to that shared use facility.
Oh, there's already one that crosses there at 70th and Cahill
Correct.
anyway. Okay, I just
Yep, there's one from the north here. Yep.
gotcha. Okay.
And then this is that crossing that I was talking about, Bokar, down by Cahill and Edmondson, that has the RRFB as well.
Now, I think this makes a lot of sense. I take that intersection all the time to go to my warehouse. So there's always traffic, always kids to the right, waiting for the bus. It used to be, but now I think, like I was saying, maybe reduced, but yeah. Fantastic idea.
Okay, moving on to the C item, further study. Which is that section of northbound Normandale Road from 70th. It goes up the hill from 70th to the top of the hill where 66th Street is. Everybody familiar with that section?
Yeah, we had the same, didn't we have the same request last year or the year before?
There've been a number of different requests on this. Everything ranging from asking for curb extensions, asking to narrow the roadway, asking to reduce the speed limit. So this is kind of a combination of a bunch of several requests that we've received.
Yeah, I have family members that live on Peyton Court, which is the little cul-de-sac that the only outlet is onto this road. And they have repeatedly asked, when will the sidewalk be going in along this road? Because if they want to bike or walk anywhere, that's the only road. And they have small children that even pushing a stroller is rather intimidating, because this is the kind of the frontage road to Highway 100.
Exactly.
So their perception is that cars drive too fast along it because it's kind of seen as a frontage road.
Well, and also you're just coming off of the highway, so you still have a lead foot, right?
Mhm.
But Andrew, here, are we saying you're going to wait until, okay, when is the future road work supposed to happen here?
So there's an overlay scheduled for this summer, actually, on this section of road. So staff is basically are kind of the two ideal options or primary options, in my opinion, are to either restripe the road to narrow the drive lane to try and reduce vehicle speeds, or to try and get the sidewalk put in, and then narrow the street. So again, you're narrowing the drive lane and trying to reduce speeds trying to reduce vehicle speeds.
Just to confirm, it's going to happen this summer. So that's the suggested timeline.
The overlay is scheduled for this summer, and we're still trying to determine which of those two strategies it makes the most sense and which ones work within our current budget.
Okay, can we use the PAC fund for this kind of work?
For the sidewalk, for just the lane striping, you couldn't unless you were adding like a bike lane on the street, then the PACs would pay for that. For
Okay.
the sidewalk construction, yes, the Pax Fund would pay for that.
Okay, so then you're gonna look at all those options, because if funding is a problem, I don't want to jump the gun, but we have a lot of money from the PAC funds that we weren't able to use, right? Could be used for that.
We do have some rollover, yes.
A little bit.
$500,000 or over $500,000, that's a little bit.
130,000, I think. We'll get into that later.
Okay, yeah, I'm just thinking how to craft this so it's all done during the summer. I even received a lot of emails last year from the resident talking about this, which I sent several emails about, but I think it's gonna be a great idea to tackle this and get it done for the safety of everybody around there.
Mm-hmm. And would you consider possibly a shared use path as opposed to a sidewalk, or consider both options?
We could certainly consider them, just strictly going based on what the master plan, the Ped and Bike Master Plan recommends. That would just be a sidewalk.
Okay.
But I'd say there's, within the street itself, there seems to be plenty of room.
Mm-hmm. Make an ideal bike cut through if it, because otherwise, having biked in this area, I skipped that road because of the traffic, and then end up weaving through a lot of neighborhood streets to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, anything else? Anybody have issues with any of the D items?
I just had a question still on that one. What's the, I didn't remember the posted speed limit for that road there.
45,
It's 30, I think.
30.
30?
30.
Yeah.
It's 30 miles per hour.
On Normandale or 66?
Normandale.
Okay, how about 66?
30.
30 also?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? So are we not approving this?
You don't need to.
Okay.
So on D4 is the one that we received a couple communications on, correct?
Correct.
And is this in response to those communications, or were they? I'm just curious if this will be communicated to those that sent the emails to us, if that's part of the same process. I just want to make sure that the residents that have sent us emails get the same information, that actually it's consistent with the number of homes on that cul-de-sac, not extraneous vehicles.
Yes. Yeah, that was communicated to them.
Okay.
And as well as the option to send correspondence submissions, which is why they did. After this meeting, they'll be informed that the commission reviewed it, and that their next option would be to email council prior to approval on March 2nd, I believe.
And then when I read D5, it just made me think of our discussion around speed limits, and that this might be a good place of surveying people that had been used to a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on their street. Then it's going back to a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit on their street. It could be an interesting data point of what their perceptions are of how that feels different.
And if it changed too, like if the speed limit even changed behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so it's interesting. I'm there, pretty much almost on that street. And so, Peter, you've talked about, well, traffic calming is better than the signage. In this case, the road was narrowed considerably, and the cars just zip down that street. They're super fast, and the road is really narrow. Even when you're on the sidewalk, it feels unsafe. So I've been sort of fascinated. I'm eager for the speed limit change to take effect.
So, Lori, how would the speed limit help it when people are zooming through? That means it's the individual, right? It's the EPD issue. That means it's not respecting anything.
Yeah, to enforce it, but if it's posted 30, it used to be posted 25, but you would think that they would slow down by the road being so much narrower, they have not slowed down.
I will say, in my experience, it's not uncommon to see that, especially a year after new pavement has been put down, because you have that nice new smooth surface. So to some extent, I've seen that go away, but it varies depending on the geometrics of the corridor.
Okay, folks, are we ready to move on from this and on to the PAX fund? And Andrew, can you give a quick and dirty, maybe I can even give a quick and dirty, because we had a question about what is the PAX fund. I'm not going to have the details, but I will say that this is, maybe it's in your presentation, what it is.
It is.
Awesome. I won't even say it. Perfect.
So I will give a quick overview, recap of what exactly the PAX fund is. Go over the monies that were spent in 2020, the specific projects that were constructed, and then give a sneak peek at what we're proposing for 2021 and 2022. And this picture here shows if you haven't gotten the chance to see it yet, this is the new entrance to City Hall, showing we have a raised crosswalk here, pedestrian crosswalk. The ADA stalls, which used to be over here on the left, are now here closer to the building. So people don't have to, those who are using the stalls don't have to cross the access road to get to the building. They're right next to the ramp. And then we've got 4 nice new green bike racks out front.
Much needed. So
the PAX fund, or the Pedestrian and Cyclist Safety Fund, was approved by council late 2012. It's the revenue is generated from utility franchise fees. So if you look, if you're a resident of Edina and you look at your Comcast or your Excel Energy or your CenterPoint Energy monthly bill, you'll see a monthly charge that goes to this franchise fee. It generates about $1.2 million annually. And that money is exclusively dedicated for improvements to our non-motorized transportation network. So things like sidewalks, bike lanes, signage, crosswalks, or any other kind of related aspects. In the early years of the funds, the focus was, and even still, the focus for the fund is primarily on construction. But we're kind of starting to get into that period where we're needing to balance construction of new facilities with maintaining facilities that we already have. So in 2020, we had $1.8 million available. Of that, about 1.6, just under 1.7 was spent on PAX items. 82% of that was built on new facilities. So about just under $1.4 million was spent on new ped and bike facilities. $9,000 was spent on maintenance of existing ped and bike facilities, and then we had about $71,000 spent as final payments for previous projects. So total construction dollars spent were $1.4 million. The administrative costs were about $200,000. Those include $100,000 of professional services. So these include consultant fees for firms that we hire to do design and inspection of some of these projects. The other category includes things like IT maintenance and other miscellaneous supplies. And then, of course, my position, my salary also comes out of this fund.
Andrew, can I ask a question? That project out in front of City Hall, does that mean did 100% of the money for that project come from this? And if so, what do you recall like roughly what that was? Or how much was contributed for that, I guess is what I'm asking, just out of curiosity.
The entire cost was not covered by the PAX fund. The cost was, my recollection is that the cost was split between the PAX fund and the CAST fund, which is our conservation and sustainability fund. Because that project also included putting in the constructing the EV charging stations. So there's a split between the PAX and the CAS fund. And if I can open up my report here, I believe in the summary table, it included how much specifically the PAX fund paid. And I apologize for not having that number on hand.
So
I was just
the
curious how
ADA
that
parking
works.
also would be covered by something other than, I'm sorry, Peter, I didn't mean to talk over you.
On your table, the PAX fund paid $147,631
There you go. Yep.
on that project. We're going to be looking at that next, so I think.
So Andrew, another quick question, if you already answered Peter's question.
I had one. Well, I have another question about that project, which I can ask later. But I just
No. Go ahead, Peter, and then
I drive by there every day, or when I leave my house, and I see those electric vehicle spots. It seems like when I glance over there, that they're filled with city vehicles. And I'm just, or at least I feel like I saw 3 or 4 of those there, which is good. I mean, I assume they're EV vehicles, but is there a space? And again, it just seems like I've glanced over there and saw them, particularly after hours, being used by city vehicles. I mean, are they meant for city vehicles or for anybody? And is there really enough room? I'm just curious for them to be used by other than city vehicles.
Sure. My recollection is that the stalls are meant for city vehicles that are electric as well as visitor vehicles. So this was really the first step in getting more EV chargers in that parking lot, because the city is also in the process of transitioning components of our fleet to electric vehicles as they come up for replacement. So as we get more electric vehicles, we're going to need more charging stations for our own fleet, as well as to support EV adoption within the community. So now that we have these initial chargers in place, which serve both the city and the residents, we can expand from those to put in more chargers as we get more EVs.
So Andrew, the maintenance of the existing pedestrian and bicycle facilities, this is so low. How did you manage to only have that much in maintenance? This is for the whole year?
Yes, that's because we really only had one project this year that was a maintenance, that I would categorize as a maintenance project. The majority of what we spent the money on was on building new facilities.
Okay.
So going over the specific projects that the PAX Fund contributed to in 2020, the big one was West 58th Street sidewalks. So we got all in all 2 miles of new sidewalks along this corridor, sidewalk on each side, as part of the roadway reconstruction project from Wooddale Avenue to Xerxes. This money also included installation of a new RRFB at the Pamela Park entrance. Also constructed with that project was a France Avenue sidewalk between 57th and 58th Street. This side actually petitioned by resident prior to the project. And so given the similar scope, we combined it with the reconstruction project. The City Hall raised crosswalk and bike racks, as I mentioned before, was part of a larger scale project that also included relocating the ADA parking stalls and installing the EV chargers. And those costs were covered by the CAS fund, which is a separate utility fund that we have.
Andrew, can I ask about the West 58th? Because you call them sidewalks. I thought they were still considered, at least one side was a multi-use path. No?
Based on the widths, so the one on the south side is I believe it's a 5 foot on the south and a 6 foot on the north.
The other way around.
at any rate, the widest that they are 6 feet. And by
Yep.
all industry standards, 6 feet is not wide enough for a shared use facility. So I personally don't think it's appropriate to call them shared. I mean, it's a little different for Edina too, because bikes are allowed on the sidewalk in Edina. So to that extent, really all of our sidewalks could be considered shared use facilities. But because they're only 6 foot wide at the most,
Yep. No,
I wouldn't
get it.
advertise them as shared use.
Okay.
Down here by Braemar, we finished the final phase of the Valley View Road sidewalk from Moccasin Valley to Mark Terrace. That whole corridor from Mark Terrace to Gleason was recommended in our active routes to school plan 7 years ago, and now the third and final phase has been constructed. Our Public Works did a paver replacement project up at 50th and France. As part of that, they replaced a couple of pedestrian curb ramps, and the Pax Fund contributed to that. We constructed a sidewalk on France Avenue between Highway 62 and 65th Street. This is on the east side, adjacent to Fairview Southdale Hospital, and they granted us some easements for that work. Up in Grandview, we constructed a sidewalk on the south side of Vernon Avenue between Arcadia and Highway 100. We extended the sidewalk on 74th Street out to Bush Lake. The sidewalk also runs by our Public Works facility. Constructed a shared use path on the east side of Tracy Avenue, going from the roundabout up to Highway 62. And then we also constructed a sidewalk on the north side of Valley View between the roundabout and Creek Valley. This was another sidewalk that was petitioned by the residents on Creek Valley. The bike rack program paid for 7 new bike racks at the Edina liquor store up in Grandview.
I really appreciate that.
They're located at the liquor store, but they are meant to serve not just the liquor store. There's also the Lunds and Byerly's is also right across there, along with a bunch of other shops. Also up in 50th in France, the at 50th in Halifax was originally owned and operated by Minneapolis. They this year somehow turned over jurisdiction to Edina, took over jurisdiction of those signals. And so we did some upgrades to the accessible pedestrian signals, and the Pax Fund helped pay for those. And then as part of the Benton Avenue bridge redecking project, the existing sidewalk on the north side was widened to more of a shared use facility. Looking ahead to what's proposed for this year, we have the Hanson Road and West 56th Street sidewalks that are recommended as part of that street reconstruction project. As part of another street reconstruction project in Creek Knoll, we have the Beard Avenue sidewalk from 54th to Minnehaha Creek, as well as replacing the bike boulevard markings on West 54th Street. Eden Avenue is proposed to be reconstructed using Grandview TIF dollars that the city has available. And as part of that project, we're looking into a shared use path from Sherwood to Arcadia Avenue. Along France Avenue, we've got a couple different projects we're looking at. We're really trying to fill this sidewalk gap on the east side prior to the Metro Transit's E-line coming into service. So we've got a couple segments here from Fuller to 57th and from 58th to 60th. We're looking at the first phase of this shared use path on McCully starting in 2021. That would be from Valley View Road to Indian Hills Road. Looking at installing some shared use paths along Highlands Park, along Doncaster and Ayrshire, and then also along France, we're looking at some pedestrian improvements at the intersection of France and 59th. So that could include APS push buttons, upgrading curb ramps, and putting in new crosswalks. The following year, we've got Blake Road is scheduled for reconstruction from the city border to Scriver Road. The Ped and Bike Plan recommends a sidewalk and bike lanes for along that corridor. We've got reconstruction coming up in Morningside neighborhood. As part of that, we'd be looking at a sidewalk on Lynn Avenue, as well as a sidewalk and bike lanes on Grimes Avenue from 40th to 44th Street. The Olinger Boulevard sidewalk from Vernon Avenue to Tracy Avenue. I believe this was another recommendation of the Active Routes to School plan. Sidewalk gap on France between 60th and Highway 62 on the east side. That second phase of the McCully shared use path extending out to Gleason. And then kind of the second part of our France Avenue pedestrian improvements would be at the intersection of France and Park Lawn Avenue. And these are some of the few pictures I could find this year, but from the top left going clockwise, we have the 58th Street under construction, the bike racks at 50th and France, or sorry, at City Hall, the new Benton Avenue Bridge with the wider facility on the north side, and then the RFBs and sidewalks at the Pamela Park entrance on 58th Street.
Andrew, would there be a plan for the area that goes south of Crosstown on Valley View, north and south? There's
Thank you.
a good, okay, yeah, you can describe better, but there's some really good infrastructure started a little bit north of that, and then it wanes off or peters out, whatever you want to say, as you get going south.
Actually, it just ends. It's one of the dangling paths, and I know you know this, Andrew, but I'm disappointed not to see anything on that whole Valley View Road area.
You're talking about where Valley View goes under 62?
Correct.
So MnDOT has a redecking project scheduled for one of those two bridges in the year 2026. And we've been working with them on, we actually just had a meeting with them earlier today to kind of talk about what we want under that corridor. And we're doing our best to work with them and try and get some more to bridge that gap.
So to speak. No pun intended.
Yeah. So it is, yeah, I agree. It's unfortunate that it's not shown in these next 2 years, but it is something that we're working with our partner agencies to try and get.
But in addition to the passing underneath the bridge, that Valley View Road section that goes, past the pool and basically goes south from the bridge is terrible, and yet the bike lane comes right up to the bridge on both sides. You can pick up bike lane going both directions, and then it just ends, and Valley View Road south of there is horrible. So we wouldn't have to be dependent on MnDOT and the bridge to make a huge difference for bikers that come through there.
That's a very busy area, I would agree, for bikers and cars and speeds.
In our mind, we kind of see that the projects kind of have to go together in order to not create an unsafe situation or to have a gap. If we were to look at putting in bike lanes on the section of Valley View but not address the bridge crossing, then we've got an unsafe situation on both sides. So it's all kind of part of a larger scale project that we're again trying to coordinate with MnDOT's scheduled work.
I get that, but we already have it. We already have a hanging bike lanes right there. And so the unsafe situation is already there. And then to not do anything with that whole stretch of roadway south of Crosstown, Valley View Road. Yeah, okay, well, my thoughts.
So I have one question about on the, there's a sidewalk that goes it's must be Halifax or 51st maybe. Basically at 50th in France, right by where like D'Amico's is. So across the street from that's the US Bank.
Mhm.
And there's a sidewalk there. I walk there quite often, kind of part of my route. That sidewalk is pavers, but they also have, the pavers have come out, so they've thrown like asphalt in there. I'm just curious, Andrew, is that a spot where, like, is that the city's responsibility, or is that US Bank, or is there a reason that, because that particular stretch, kind of as you go from, I guess that would be 50th to in front of the post office, kind of around the US Bank, it's just a real hodgepodge of walking. And I'm aware of it, but I'm just curious how that's dealt with, or is that something that's on the table, or if you're aware of it?
Sure. So you may recall one of the projects I mentioned was a paver replacement project at 50th in France. This is actually something that the city does basically on an annual basis. We determine what areas of pavers in this district need to be removed and replaced or repaired in whatever manner. The city hires a contractor and manages the work, and then the costs are generally assessed back then to the business district within or assessed back to the 50th in France business district, and then they distribute those costs to the businesses as they see fit. So we generally are not able to do kind of everything all in the same year. We have to prioritize what a few areas within a given year.
Andrew, I have a couple questions on the expenditures from the table of expenditures.
Mhm.
And it goes to the really cost per linear foot for some projects over others. So I look at the 58th Street roadway construction. You got over 10,000 linear feet, and it costs 117,000, which is about $11 a linear foot. And then you've got, let's see, where is it? That's not that one. Oh, the Highway 62 5th Street. So that's F. You got 275 feet for 185, almost $186,000, which is 607. I had to calculate this out. $676 a linear foot. How do you? And the same thing would be true. I get that the safe routes to school or active routes to school sidewalk is a necessary thing, but it also was like $506 a linear foot, whereas the 5,700 to 5,800 on France was again a little over $11 a linear foot. It's like, gosh, in some areas you're getting good bang for your buck, and in other areas really 275 feet for $185,000. Can you talk about that at all?
So yes, there is a lot of variability with these projects, and there's a number of factors that come into play. Keep in mind that of all of these projects, these projects encompass probably at least a dozen, if not more, separate contracts and separate contractors. So these are not all bid at the same time. They're bid separately throughout the year. Some are packaged together if they're of similar scope, like 58th in France. But some need to be bid separately because it's completely separate scope of work. The scope of the project itself has a lot to do with the cost. 58th Street was on the cheaper side because it's part of a larger street reconstruction project. Whereas like the Valley View sidewalk, for example, the Valley View sidewalk between Moxon and Mark Terrace, that segment had, if any of you have driven by it, it includes a lot of large block retaining walls in order to minimize impacts to adjacent properties. So sidewalks like that, or like segments of Interlochen sidewalk that we completed a couple years ago. Those are some expensive projects because the nature of them just required more expensive project components. The other France Avenue project, the one by Fairview Southdale, my guess would be kind of a combination of bidding it out kind of later in the year. We generally get better prices the earlier that we can design and bid projects, while contractors are still trying to fill out their schedules. But traffic control is also a part of these projects. And I think we're all familiar of what the traffic conditions are like near France and Highway 62, even under COVID circumstances. So
Yeah.
all of those things
I get
kind
that.
of weigh into the
I
price.
just look at it's a small fraction of the distance, 200 and some feet versus over 1,000 feet for 1.5 times the cost. It's like, okay, I'm going to let it go. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, I can get the variability with time of year and all that kind of stuff. The difference between about $700 a linear foot and $11 a linear foot. I get that there are some variations, but that seems extreme. Anyway.
Andrew, maybe a suggestion would be, I saw that too, right? But I think the suggestion may be to add a comment at the end of each project, just to say what those linear footage entail, like traffic control or whatever you decide to add into it to make sense. Because when people see this, they look at, okay, I'm building a home, for instance, I'm going to pay $112 per square foot, whatever. And then now here you're paying X amount per linear foot. They do the simple math, take whatever the total cost divided by the number of linear footage, figure out the number, right? So that can be a little bit misleading. I would add that. Or provide a IMR chart, like a chart by project over time of that ratio that you would find per linear feet, just to make it apples to apples. Then it's very clear.
Yeah, that's helpful, Bokar.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments on the PAX report?
I had a question. Were we going to apply our equity criteria to the PAX fund as well?
Yes.
Yes, that is. I was hoping to be able to present that tonight. Unfortunately, there were some things that kind of came up this week. But that is, the step in the process that I'm working on. The projects that I'm presented for this year and next year are based on what's in our CIP right now. I am working on applying the equity criteria to those, and getting the equity criteria adopted by council so that when we get to our next round of CIP, we can prioritize projects more appropriately.
Cool. Well, and of course, part of that criteria includes whether there are street reconstruction projects that go along with a sidewalk. So sometimes you can see that many of them are around those kinds of projects.
Anything else? We're ready to move on? Was that the last of our reports? No, we have our work plan updates.
Plans.
Yeah, let me share here again.
Andrew, while you're opening up the work plans, I had a question regarding those all the consulting services we get.
Mm-hmm.
What is the process of onboarding those consultants, or how do you choose them?
I would have to check with design and construction to confirm, but essentially it's kind of similar to the how we consult for the traffic impact studies. We have a kind of a list of firms that we regularly work with or that we know do this type of work, and we try to kind of spread the work out to among those based on their kind of their capacity and their costs.
Thanks.
Okay, organized trash collection. Andrew, I know that you know where that's at as it relates to the Vantage project.
Yeah, so the student group just received their charter this week, and I just got an email from them this afternoon asking to set up a kickoff meeting. So they're looking to schedule it for sometime the first week of March. So I emailed Jill, Lori, and Kirk to see your availability for taking part in that kickoff meeting.
Great, so it's starting.
Yep, thank you.
Street funding task force. Do you have anything on that, Andrew? I know Matt had said it really had wrapped up and they were going to council with a proposal.
Yes, I do. So again, like I said before, Commissioner Scheer has resigned from the commission, but he is planning to kind of finish out his service with the street funding task force. They held their will likely be their last meeting last week, reviewing the public comments that were received based on the recommendations they had put forth. There appeared not really to be a strong consensus among the residents as far as what option they preferred. Generally, those that had already been subject to assessment were less inclined to change the policy, and those who had not yet been assessed were more inclined to change the policy, which makes sense. However, the task force is kind of moving forward with a series of recommendations. They're basically generally recommending two options to City Council. One is to replace the 100% assessment with a 50% assessment and a 50% city tax. Or option two is to completely replace it with city tax. They had some other recommendations in their report, like they recommended that subcut and retaining wall costs shouldn't be part of the assessment. And they also recommended that the city look at drafting a streetlight policy to kind of help when and where streetlights are put in and how those costs are covered. So that report will be presented to City Council on March 2nd. And then essentially after that, the task force work will be completed. And then it'll be up to council to determine where we go from there.
Great, thank you. Initiative 3 is Clover Ride. Mindy.
Actually, Andrew, I might as well let you update exactly what you sent me.
Yeah, there was a recommendation at the last meeting to reach out to Yorktown Continental because they have pretty strong ridership, and to see what kind of outreach, if any, they're doing to get strong ridership. We're still trying to get a hold of them, and I talked to Mindy about we're going to try to get another advisory committee meeting set up the next couple weeks. It's been a while since we've met.
Great, thank you. Initiative 4 is the traffic safety reports, which are ongoing. We did hear the 2020 summary, and we reviewed the monthly as well. Initiative 5 is on the CIP. What did we? Oh, that was the PAX one. Sorry. Yes, we did get the 2020 report. And
the equity criteria is still in the works. I'm still working on getting that to the commission for review.
Yeah. Initiative 6, traffic impact studies and travel demand management. As far as I know, there have not been any new sketch plans, although I'm kind of expecting the one that I read about. Is that the Pentagon Park one? or
There's
what was that one?
there's three. There have been two recent sketch plans. One was for the Perkins site, 4917 Eden Avenue.
Yep.
The second one was for 4660 70th Street, which is part of the Pentagon development.
Yep.
It's on the north side. But we're actually just received. I'm working on scoping out the traffic studies for those two projects. And a third one that we're anticipating is 4040 70th Street. This is the northeast corner of the 70th Street roundabout, 70th and Valley View, right next to I think it's Kinderberry, the daycare center.
Yep.
So those three projects studies for those three projects are coming down the pipelines, and I'm anxiously awaiting them.
Do you know,
There was a question at the last meeting about the 6600 France project, and I just wanted to note that application was withdrawn, so that project is not going forward.
Which is real good.
so Andrew, when should we expect to see those for the three developments you just mentioned, or the the one at Pentagon and the one at Perkins? It's already uploaded into the city development tracker already.
You said they're in the development tracker already?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
One of them is for sure.
So for one of them, we've already agreed on a scope for the work, so they're preparing the study. This another one, we're still working out the details of the scope. After that, they'll start on the study. For the third one, can't recall for the third one. The third one, I think we've already agreed on a scope of work.
Okay.
Once we agree on a scope of work, I don't really have they don't give a timeline for when it will be completed. It just, whenever they're done, they'll send it to us.
Can we see the scope of work?
I can send you the proposals, sure.
Please, that'd be great. Thank you.
Real good. And that is it on the work plan review. And I think we go to chair and member comments. Does anybody has any other business? Can we take it from the top then? For comments?
Certainly. Mindy?
I don't have anything this month.
Kirk?
Oh, actually, can I change my mind? I forgot. I had one thing I did want to say, which was to actually thank Lori for her extended years of service as chair, and to appreciate the great work that you have done. When you said something about not being so good at running meetings, you're great at running meetings. So thank you.
Kirk?
On a somewhat similar vein, I wanted to say I like our adaptation to meeting virtually. There's some benefits, and I think that everybody has contributed really well and active and engaged. And Andrew, I think you facilitate, our group really well. Lori, too, thank you. So I guess I was just thinking ahead. If we go back to in-person, I don't know, maybe we could be thinking about if this has advantages or we have a hybrid model or other ways. Interested to hear what other people think as we get closer to that point.
Bokar?
Hey, Lori, congratulations. You have done a phenomenal job, and thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
I think it's great that you are open to very hard discussions and find a path forward and not get bogged down on the details, right? And thank you for your service. I enjoyed you a lot. And Kurt, congratulations. And Jill, the same congratulations. I think you both going to do phenomenal. One bummer is the fact that we lost Matt Shearer. Matt is very capable. I met him at a personal level, absolutely capable, intelligent, smart. I mean, I wish there was a way to accommodate his knowledge, but I guess family comes first. So I don't know, not knowing enough details. It's a hard one.
Peter?
Geez, that's a lot of pressure on us, Bokar. I guess we're going to have to pick up our game here. But no, I was going to say I kind of agree with what Kirk said about the format. I mean, I guess, but I don't have anything to compare. I've never, as long as I've been on this committee, we've only been meeting virtually, so I don't really know. I have a hard time comparing it, but I certainly feel like the way we've done these has been effective, and I like the focus of whatever we're talking about, right front center. That just really dials it in. Sometimes you kind of get lost in those meetings. You're not really sure what necessarily people are talking about. And the last thing I'll say is I like that we are talking about costs. You brought that up today, and Lori, and I appreciate that. I mean, I feel like I want to inject that in where it makes sense, so I have a sense of what we're doing, because I'm a citizen and I'm paying taxes, and I'd like to know what things cost and how it works, and it makes me much more informed about the recommendations and decisions.
Bruce?
Nothing to add except my thanks to our past leaders, Ari and Kirk, and looking forward to working with Kirk and Jill in their new leadership roles. So thank you.
Nihar?
Yeah, I just want to add on the thanks to Lori and also the vice chairman. I don't really know a lot of how like the commission works because it's like 6th month, but I know that you're doing a good job. So thanks.
Anna? Maybe if your volume's working. Nope. Gonna type in any comments in the chat? Okay. Anand?
No comments, but I wanted to say thank you to Kurt Richmond and Kirk as well. So thank you guys.
And Lori?
Well, gosh, I wanted to say thank you to all of you because you made doing the chair job really pretty easy. Because you were all willing to go along for the ride of really what felt sort of like a rocky process facilitation. But that said, I look forward to what the well, first of all, I'm excited to work with the leaders and each of you who is a leader, particularly of an initiative, because a number of you have stepped up to lead initiatives, and that's cool. That's a strong role. Looking forward to that. Eager to have you 3 students as involved as you want to be, especially since we are going to be working with some students from Minnetonka High School on the garbage collection thing. So thank you for chiming in. And in terms of whether or not we meet in person, I've had my first vaccine, so I'm hopeful that by the middle of March, I'll both. But I read on the CDC website that they're really only saying that they're good. They can only say that they're good for about 90 days. They just don't know. So it's like, this sounds like it's going to be an ongoing cycle of vaccines for everybody, and they're just going to keep going. I don't know. Haven't figured it out. Other than that, my biggest thanks, I have to say, is to Andrew, who made my job of chairing so much easier. He is really smart, capable, talented, and good to look at too. So the combination, he's great, and I know that the new chair and vice chair will really enjoy working with him. Thanks all. It's all you.
God, how red am I getting? Thank you. To start with, at the council meeting last night, I presented the public engagement report for the speed limit evaluation. And council approved staff's approach. So recall that what we're recommending right now is a 25-mile-an-hour default speed limit. With a few exceptions, a few streets would be at 30 miles an hour. So council also authorized staff to develop the implementation plan. So now begins the real work of looking at costs and signage, working with Public Works, police, and communications to talk about enforcement strategies, public education, all of those kind of things. And then we're planning to present that back to City Council later this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, and thanks for all of your comments and feedback. It was very helpful throughout the process. The council also approved new board and commission appointments last night. Chris Brown has been appointed to fill our vacant seat. He'll begin his term in March, and MJ will also look at. I believe we'll look at our list of alternates to fill in Commissioner Shearer's slot. Hennepin County is planning an overlay on France Avenue between 50th Street and Excelsior, and they are looking at in the year, I believe, 2022. And as part of that project, they're interested in adding bike lanes along that corridor. So we're working with Hennepin County, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis to kind of determine how feasible that is and what impacts that might have on those sections. Primarily, the area that we're concerned about is any impacts to on-street parking along those corridors. So stay tuned for more on that. And then just want to add our next meeting is March 18th. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Lori, you're muted.
Sorry, I muted that I don't even know where the mute button is. Anything else for the good of the whole? Stay safe, everybody, and spring is coming. Thank you for all your good work, and we will see you in March, and I will take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please respond with aye if you agree, or nay if you don't.
Commissioner Aller,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kane,
Aye.
Commissioner Lafferty,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy, Commissioner Plum Smith, she's gone, Chair Richmond.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Richard, thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.